What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Khabib Nurmagomedov predicts Islam Makhachev will roll over Charles Oliveira. With less than 2 weeks to go until Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira step into the octagon in the main event of UFC 280, anticipation is at an all-time high. When the two men meet in the octagon on October 22nd, the vacant lightweight title will be on the line. On one hand, Charles Oliveira will be looking to reclaim the 155-pound title that was taken from him earlier this year by the Arizona Athletic Commission. Across the cage, Islam Makhachev will be looking to continue the legacy of Khabib Nurmagomedov and his father by capturing UFC gold. As fight night quickly approaches, Khabib Nurmagomedov is confident that Islam Makhachev will roll over his opponent with ease when the two men collide in the center of the cage. During a recent interview with MMA Junkie, the UFC Hall of Famer spoke about the upcoming fight, saying, "I think Islam is more skilled than Oliveira. Secondly, his experience as an amateur fighter. Also, he's at his peak. Islam is at his peak. Islam isn't 23, 26, or 27. He's 30. A week after the fight, he'll be 31. It's the best time for any athlete. It's a time when your mental and physical state should be in synergy. Sometimes your mental state is high, but your physical state is going down. As it stands right now, Makhachev is the betting favorite for the fight, albeit by a slight margin. Despite the fact that Charles Oliveira has been on an absolute tear as of late, the former champion is going into the fight as the underdog. With that being said, however, Bronx is no stranger to being the underdog. When the two men fight in the main event at UFC 280, who do you think leaves Abu Dhabi with the belt? Sound off in the comments section below. TJ Dillashaw doesn't feel threatened by Aljamain Sterling's wrestling. Although Charles Oliveira vs Islam Makhachev has been the most talked about fight on the UFC 280 card, the co-main event clash between bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw is arguably equally as thrilling. When the two men fight on October 22nd, both of their legacies will be on the line. For Dillashaw, the bout is an opportunity to prove that he still reigns atop the 135-pound division. After losing a bid at the flyweight title to Henry Cejudo, Dillashaw was flagged for EPO and subsequently stripped of his bantamweight title. After serving a 2-year suspension, Dillashaw is eager to show that he still deserves to sit atop the 135-pound division. On the flip side of things, the bout serves as an opportunity for Aljamain Sterling to prove himself as the best bantamweight on the planet by dispatching of an opponent many consider to be the greatest of all time. With less than 2 weeks to go until the two men collide in the co-main event bout, Dillashaw is confident the Funk Masters wrestling won't be a problem for him. As a former Division I wrestler, Dillashaw is eager to prove to fight fans that he's better than Sterling regardless where the fight takes place. During a recent episode of DC and RC, the challenger spoke about the fight, saying,
"You know, the style that I have to be able to fight, I mean, I'm so well-rounded. I'm actually the better wrestler. I wasn't really impressed with his shots, you know, to get those takedowns. He had to take 22 of them to get 2, right? So those odds aren't that great, but he was so desperate and persistent in getting them that it helped out for him, right? But, I mean, to be honest, man, I'm not feeling the threat. I'm going to get out there and do what I do best and show him what D1 wrestling is all about."
Do you believe Dillashaw is in fact the better wrestler? Or will the reigning champion prove to everyone that he's here to stay? Give us your predictions in the comments below. Next up, Deontay Wilder wants Francis Ngannou bout. After Francis Ngannou unified the heavyweight title by defeating Ciryl Gane to kick off the year, fight fans weren't sure whether or not they would see the champ in the octagon again. With looming contract disputes with the UFC, all signs pointed to Ngannou pursuing boxing rather than returning to the octagon. In fact, following Tyson Fury's last fight, Ngannou and the boxing champion shared the ring where they both expressed a desire to fight one another in a boxing match contested with MMA gloves. That poured fuel on the fire regarding Ngannou's potential return to the UFC. With talks of a boxing match on the horizon, many seem to think that it was only a matter of time before the UFC opted to strip Ngannou of the belt. Fortunately, in the months following his title unification fight with Gane, Ngannou and the UFC brass were able to mend fences and talks shifted towards the champion returning as soon as he recovers from knee surgery. With Ngannou's 2023 return rapidly approaching, there has been no word on the UFC champ making the move to boxing. Ahead of Deontay Wilder's upcoming boxing match this weekend, it seems as though he and his camp are eager to potentially compete against the UFC champion. During a recent interview with The Insider, Wilder spoke about the situation, saying, "It was mentioned to me before, and Al agreed. Here's the old saying, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. And he agreed with me as well. I think that would be an intriguing fight, and it would be a fight that would bring a lot of interest. Considering Wilder has made several appearances at the UFC Apex recently, only time will tell whether the power puncher and his team are able to get the UFC brass to agree to a cross-promotion fight. And before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Khabib Nurmagomedov sounds off on Tony Ferguson continuing to fight despite losing streak. When Tony Ferguson was submitted by Nate Diaz in the main event of their UFC 279 bout, it not only marked the 5th straight loss for Ferguson, but also the first time he had been submitted over the course of his UFC career. The loss marked a new low for the former interim champion and marked an unsuccessful return to welterweight for El Cucuy after being knocked out by Michael Chandler at UFC 274 earlier this year. Given the consecutive losses, many thought Ferguson would retire. Despite that, after the bout, Ferguson informed Joe Rogan in his Octagon interview that he felt as though he was back in a big way at welterweight. It was something he reaffirmed during his post-fight press conference, where he shot down retirement talks while admitting that he felt as though his body may need a little bit longer to adjust to the move to 170. During a recent interview, former foe Khabib Nurmagomedov explained that he understands why Ferguson continues to fight despite the incredible losing streak he's on. He spoke during an interview with UFC Russia to give his thoughts on his bitter rival, saying, "I think he keeps fighting for money to pay bills and taxes. He has a family. I think he has 2 kids. I don't blame him. But you can't get back time. When your time goes away, it doesn't ask your name." So far, there has been no word yet as to when Ferguson will return to the Octagon. Given the fact that his scheduled bout with Li Jingliang fell apart at the 11th hour prior to UFC 279, some have called for the fight to be rebooked. What do you think? With no indications of Ferguson walking away from the sport, who do you want to see him square off against next? Give us your thoughts in the comments section below. And now for our breaking news story of the day, we have Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta announcing a big money move. It's reported that the two are looking to bring slap fighting to Nevada. The report states that Schiaffo LLC is the name of the business that brought the matter before the commission. According to Nevada business license search Silver Flume, White and Fertitta, as well as UFC Chief Operating Officer Lawrence Epstein and the Ultimate Fighter producer Craig Pilligan, are listed as the LLC's managers. According to an October monthly meeting agenda recently distributed to MMA Junkie by the Nevada Athletic Commission, or the NAC, a discussion will take place Wednesday to determine if such contests or exhibitions qualify as unarmed combat, and thus fall under the jurisdiction of the Nevada Athletic Commission, as defined by the law. Dana White posted this on Instagram.
What's up, everybody? UFC President Dana White here, and I am putting together the biggest slap competition of all time. So, if you have ever professionally slapped or you think you can, email a video and your information to our casting team at slapcast@pilgrimmediagroup.com or just hit the link in bio.
Do you guys think that the UFC will affiliate with the slap fighting in any way? Would you even watch this? Let us know down in the comments section below. Last up, Daniel Cormier doesn't think Juliana Pena deserves immediate rematch against Amanda Nunes. When Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes stepped into the octagon to compete against each other for the first time at UFC 269, nobody could have imagined what would happen. Over the course of the 2-round affair, Pena continued to outclass Nunes on the feet, landing jab after jab while Nunes seemingly had no answer. It was one of the most shocking upsets in UFC history, considering the fact that Nunes hadn't lost since 2014. The following summer, Nunes and Pena shared the octagon once again in a highly anticipated rematch. With Nunes moving camps, the former champion hoped that she would be able to reclaim the title when the two squared off again. At UFC 277, when the pair fought for the second time, it was Nunes who emerged victorious, opening up a massive cut on the head of Pena en route to a unanimous decision win. After the bout, Pena expressed her desire for an immediate rematch so the two could settle their trilogy. Unfortunately for the former champion, UFC Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier doesn't think she deserves a third fight. During a recent episode of DC and RC, the former champ spoke about the situation, saying,
"I tap out, Ryan. I have to because the work hasn't warranted an immediate rematch. Because if not, then every champion that loses gets an immediate rematch. Like, it's not like that. It just doesn't work that way. Because Amanda got an immediate rematch because she's Amanda Nunes. Jose Aldo didn't get an immediate rematch, and he was the longest reigning featherweight champion of all time."
Cormier isn't very off base. The UFC traditionally hasn't done immediate rematches unless the fight is either extremely competitive or the champion had reigned over the division for a long time. Even then, as Cormier pointed out, the promotion doesn't always give rematches, like when Jose Aldo lost to Conor McGregor. So far, there has been no word yet from the UFC or Amanda Nunes on plans regarding the women's bantamweight title, with no indications as to whether the promotion will look for a trilogy fight between the two, or if they'll find another contender to challenge Nunes for the belt. We want to hear from you. Who do you want to see Amanda Nunes fight next? Sound off in the comment section below. Thanks so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the MMA Zone to stay up to date on all of the latest news. See you next time.